I get to introduce this next guy who you know well. His name is Brent Slava. He just happens to be chatting with this other guy that you guys probably know well, Brian. I don't even know what I should say your middle name is. Xavier Passman. Brian Xavier Passman is what I'm going to go with. How are you, man?
I'm doing well. Actually, my middle name is Thor.
Is it real? Oh, I wish it
No,
was.
I
I
Wow.
wish
too.
it was.
Sorry, it's not
Can
though.
we?
Well,
Before this is over, I'm going to edit the banner at the bottom of the screen to say Brian Thor Passman for sure. But
Please do,
it's
please.
really good to see you, man. Brent, it's always good to have you on here. I'm going to let you guys jump in, but maybe there'll be some questions. So we'll see.
Thanks, Patrick.
thank you, Patrick.
Go for it.
Let's kick it off. Hope everyone's having a great day today. Brian, sounds like you're having a good day today. I think that, what we're going to talk about today is going to put a little bit of a unique angle on the cannabis industry. We haven't had any other presentations today coming from the position that you come from in the industry, which is on human capital and hiring, right? And something that we've been talking about, you and I have been talking about a little bit, is I think the cannabis industry has kind of moved past talking about the evolution of hiring. We're kind of done with that. And now you're thinking, let's focus on a challenge that is sort of being faced in the industry right now, and that is retaining great leadership and human capital, right? And so I want to ask you, Brian, what kind of evidence do you think is out there in the industry right now that's showing, this is this is something that the industry should be focused on, retaining great leaders and other human capital?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Brent. Yeah, I've had a good day. It's been good getting here with you. And I'm seeing at the top it's 7.5 hours into it. So people are probably starting to feel the weight of it. Yeah, human capital. Gets me. One, thanks to Benzinga for having me on their capital conference. Human capital is important. It's a great asset, and as you said, the industry's done well evolving to I think a very professionalized place as it relates to hiring. You've got new strategic HR leaders entering the industry every day, a lot of HRIS, candidate tracking systems, a lot of recruiter partnerships, a lot of accomplished leaders who have built teams and know how to hire and go about tracking candidate applications and just streamline the process. So yeah, we've evolved a lot. I mean, there's always room for improvement, but certainly, as you said, now really the next challenge is holding on to that talent. So, right, attracting people's interest to the cannabis industry, I dare say, is dead easy. Getting them through the doors is a little bit of a challenge. Keep
Right.
keeping them and keeping them happy is really the real challenge, and that's where your strategic HR leaders come into play, and a lot of employee relations improvements are starting to hit on cylinders. Where you're seeing more 401ks in place and succession planning, and these KPI cultures emerging. And
Yep.
some of our favorite clients are really evolving to these KPI cultures where, it's a little bit of a shock to the system for some of the OGs who have been in the industry for a bit, who are
Right.
used to measuring success more anecdotally, and now they're being held to some metrics. But guess what? It's a better way to reward success,
Yeah.
measure and reward success and keep your top performers.
Right. So, I mean, I think you just kind of hinted at a couple there, but I mean, why do you think retaining human capital is super important for the industry right now?
Well, yeah. Your people are your best asset. It's a fact. They're in just about every case your only appreciating asset. So the longer you can hang on to your people, the better return on that investment you should be getting, because you've got more knowledge as it relates to the industry, the plant, your specific business, your culture, and so on and so forth. So that that opportunity on an individualized basis is great, but when you think about your whole team existing like that and really being able to gel together and work as a team and hit on all cylinders together, that's when it becomes really, really special. And the companies right now that are thriving who have competitors, maybe wondering, well, our branding's the same, or we have, great real estate is working for us and other things are equal. The difference is the people. And when you have continuity of leadership and people are gelling together, right? Because it's like in sports. You can't just throw a bunch of superstars together and just assume that, your whole team of LeBrons is going to share the
Mhm.
ball championship together. It's a whole team effort.
It's a really good way to put it, and I imagine that you were probably pretty relieved when the industry sort of started rolling from, more like anecdotal to like, well, we hit this metric, we accomplished success because we set out to hit this metric and we've hit it. Am I right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it makes it easier to sell opportunities to top talent. Great talent that's used to performing at a high level in their CPG or life science or gaming or other industry coming into cannabis. They want to understand that, they're going to have their success measured and rewarded for in a certain specific way.
Hmm.
And then you've got people that have worked in the industry for quite a while that, haven't been bonused out. They haven't moved up the ranks and increased their comps or, receive their vesting or whatever it may be. And a lot of times it's just because, well, you're just not getting it just because. And, those people are carrying around a lot of baggage. So as a cannabis business looking to hire talent from within the industry, it definitely behooves you to be able to define those things to those top performers because,
Hmm.
they want it, they crave it. They want to understand that, they're going to be held accountable because guess what? Then it probably means other people in the organization are being held accountable. And
There you
that's good
go.
for everyone.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, I think what you're a part of what you're talking about is like improving culture, right? When people are coming together and you're retaining good leaders and you're able to work with somebody better longer. I mean, it's ultimately going to be for the benefit, I think, anyways. And the culture in the cannabis industry has changed so much over, even just the last few years, I think. I mean, how do you think that improving hiring practices, human capital retainment. How do you think that helps to legitimize the industry even more than it already has than the industry has over the last few years?
Yeah, yeah. Well, well, one, this industry suffers greatly with, each black eye that it takes from, someone acting out or getting in trouble in some way. So theoretically, if you've got better hiring and retention practices, it hopefully means you're hanging on to people that belong in the industry and are doing the right things. So
Hmm.
that whole, sort of rising tide concept comes into play. Also, when you've got that dynamic going for the industry where, companies are measuring individuals' performance in that way, that oftentimes means they're measuring their performance in the right way, where they're tracking,
Absolutely.
right, cost of goods
Right.
sold and EBITDA and just all of those things that investors attending this conference today want to see more of. It's bringing cash in is a good thing, but also having a strong bottom line and being profitable is a good thing. So, I feel like they sort of go together. So as a whole,
Hmm.
if you have, cannabis businesses operating that way, investors are more apt to invest more aggressively in those businesses, and the businesses can scale more effectively. And then, then it's just you've got your positive momentum.
That was an awesome little segue. I think what we've kind of been talking about so far has been, from a business aspect. And I was just gonna ask, how do you think this improvement that you're seeing in the industry that you want to shoot for in the industry is gonna benefit like investors? But I mean, I think you just touched on like a couple right there. So maybe we just kind of take the opposite side of the coin and go like, I mean, do you think there's any downside for an investor from this development in the industry?
That's a good question. I guess there should be another side of the coin always.
Right. I mean, you gotta have insight into all of these things to be able to make, a more informed decision, right? So I always like to, say, cool, what are our best case scenario here and what's some tough things that we're gonna have to think about and pick our heads up and look toward the future to try to be proactive.
Yeah, well, I guess I could think of one thing as it as it relates to our space. So, we're in the people business, and we're always focused on who's in what role, and is a leadership team built out at XYZ Cannabis business. And, we have some clients that have some open spots on their senior leadership team because they're in a very calculated, very methodical way, trying to get those hires executed in the right way. So, you probably have, in some cases, some investors scratching their head and say, well, why doesn't this MSO have a chief marketing officer? Or why doesn't this group have such and such? And, and a lot of those companies have those people in place as well. So circling back to succession planning, I think companies that are also hiring smartly are not only looking for people that are metrics driven, but they're also hiring with progression. So maybe don't immediately hire that ops or marketing leader to your C-suite, because you don't want quick turnover in your C-suite. So maybe have them earn that, bring them in as a VP or SVP initially. So there's probably a downside when investors are looking at the About Us page or a deck with a leadership team that's not built out. And that's where really just understanding the people and the why. And I'm sure plenty of investors here are far more experienced in their diligence efforts than I am. But just for argument's sake, just why is this position not filled? Why is so and so in this role and not this role? And understand the thought process behind the board and the president, CEO, or chairman.
Seek to understand. We like to say seek to understand at Benzinga. Maybe there's a really good reason, and you just get a hold of somebody and say, hey, can you just explain this? And yeah, they have a legit reason, I guess. What kind of tips do you, and you again just kind of touched on it right there, but what kind of tips could you give businesses out there who are listening? How do they, we haven't really talked about this, so why not find great talent? And then of course what we want to focus on here is how are we retaining great talent in the industry?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of great talent out there. I mean, look, there's an opportunity in the industry for everyone. You just have to find the right group in the right role at the right time. Doesn't matter what your skill set is, and regardless of the role your cannabis business is hiring for, there's someone out there that can fit the bill. It takes work. There's nothing mystical or magical, I think, about what we do. It's a lot of hard work and intuition. Sure, we've got a lot of decades behind us, so there's intuition at play. But if you've got a good HRIS in place, an actual organization internally that cares about engaging with people, we'll just say it. LinkedIn is a powerful tool. It's everyone's favorite recruitment tool. If you don't want to invest in applicant tracking system, however, I would definitely say that's a smart investment.
Yeah.
All right. And the brunt of the hiring does not happen at the senior level. For companies viewing this, we had a call with the talent acquisition team of a big MSO client today, talking about how they need leaders that are more into recruiting, and their best leaders are always recruiting. They're recruiting the customers in the stores. They're recruiting people that provide good service when they're out to eat, or you just walk the mall and go recruit. So, there's talent everywhere. Of course, I'm biased, and I'd like to say you should hire Hunter Esquire as your search firm to get access to great talent. I think we could deliver it more rapidly, but having an in-house recruitment team and HR organization and some job slots on LinkedIn and a tracking system, and then a search partner, because you can't fill all the roles internally. The pace by which many of these companies grow, you just think you need a search partner that you don't use for every role or even most of your roles, but when those hard to fit or really key to fill roles, go outside to an expert.
And I think what you're saying about, when you're out and about, just talking with people, and really, it's just being passionate about the industry that you work in. If you're passionate about the industry that you work in, you're going to be at a restaurant or at a bar and striking up a conversation, and who knows what could kind of come from that conversation, I guess, right?
Yeah, the cannabis industry is professionalizing a lot, but I still think it's very, very different and better than other industries. It does feel better. I've worked in other industries. In my opinion, It feels better than other industries. It's warmer, it's friendlier, it's a lot more fun, in my opinion. So yeah, as you have those opportunities when you're at a barbecue, and you meet someone who's really cool, such and such, think about them for opportunities in your organization. There's, especially if you're hiring, at the store level or just in any role where that person's dealing a lot with other people in or outside your organization.
Front
Uh,
facing kind of thing, right?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's always be recruiting, I guess, is
Mhm.
the message there.
So, I mean, we started talking about a challenge that you think the industry is overcoming here pretty soon. Let's talk about what's next. I mean, what do you think the next step for the cannabis industry as far as hiring and human capital goes that you think you want to alert people to right now so that, when it's 6 months or a year or a couple years from now, they can remember that and go like, okay, maybe we've reached sort of the next phase here. What do you think that phase is?
Yeah, I think, well, probably more than one thing. I guess I'll start with succession planning. Companies getting really serious about succession planning and not just sort of shooting from the hip, trying to promote from within, but
Sure.
right. So, really figuring out, does the person fit for this position today and for where we're going? Because I think for all the years leading up to this, it's extremely difficult to do that. There's
Hmm.
a lot of these positions have been newly created. It's the first hire, so you just hope that that hire works, and it's like crazy to think about what they could do down the road for the organization. So I really think with more strategic HR leadership, more focus on succession planning is going to come into play, and with a lot of that
Sure.
strategic HR leadership hiring, also you're going to see more than lip service be given to diversity, equity, inclusion, and corporate social responsibility efforts. I think we're going to see that become more of a real actionable, actual contributing to society factor. This we all know this industry is doing well on that front and can do better. And I'm happy to say we've entered a few HR leaders to the industry recently who take that super seriously and are going to make big waves.
Right.
So that
Right.
I know that's happening.
Awesome. So let's I think we probably got one or two more discussion points here. I
Go
mean,
for it,
from
dude.
your
I'm here when you're
yeah,
ready, Brent. I also
awesome,
just want to
Patrick.
make you aware of just
Yo,
one question from the chat, man.
sweet.
Um, Mark M is asking, what are some of the key future professions in this industry? Which I thought might be interesting to dive into.
That's a
Yeah.
great
So he's
question.
he's giving an example. Robotic trimmers are replacing some of those, normal positions and others. Are there any that are future professions that you're looking at?
Ooh,
It's a
It's a good
good
uh,
one,
question,
right?
right?
Yeah.
it is. Well, I saw a great title the other day. Someone was a manager of listening operations.
That's
So
Brent Slava. Brent
I was
Slava is
gonna say,
definitely.
I think we could
Yep.
do that, Patrick. I think you'd be good at
Yep.
that too, Patrick. So
I no, I run my
what
mouth too much. That's
what was
definitely
that
you.
position, Brian? What were they doing?
that is sort of like a junior level chief of staff position. I've been a fan
Awesome.
for years of this, the chief of staff role, which I
Yeah,
like to describe as your kind of connective tissue smoke detector role in
totally.
the company, who's touching everyone in the organization. As these businesses try to standardize more things and get to a better collaborative effort, having someone like that who's liaising between department leaders, making sure everyone's communicating and collaborating, I think that's a really key role. But what a good question. Yeah.
That is a very good one. Well, and that runs us to time, unfortunately, you guys. But
Good stuff.
Brian, I have not hung out with you in a long time. The last time I saw you was at the Fountain Blue in Miami in
That was a
February of
good
last
time.
year. Yeah. Are you going to come in October to New York when we're there?
I am, if you'll hang out with me and sing to me.
Well, I
I
will.
I
I,
I was I was I was talking to Brian about your voice, Patrick.
you stop it, both of you.
Your sweet angel's voice.
Ooh,
But
thank you.
time with the Benzinga fam in New York is a can't miss, in my opinion. Yes, I'll be there. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure having you both. Brent, I see you every so often, every couple days here. Brian, I don't get to see you enough, but let's do this again sometime.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Always good to see you guys. Thanks a lot for having
All
me.
right.
Have a good day,
Later on.
everybody.